She hadn't meant to bid. She'd only meant to watch, to warm herself by the noise of strangers chasing forgotten things. The storage lot smelled of wet concrete and burnt coffee. Wind cut through the rows of metal doors, like someone searching for a way out. When the auctioneer called, "Unit 47, start me at 10, Mara Holt lifted her hand before logic remembered poverty. 10 became 15. Then silence. Sold to the lady in the red coat. The word lady startled her. Behind her, Lily, 9 years old, hungry, defiant, squeezed her hand and whispered, "Did we win something?" They drove the borrowed pickup to the rust-flaked door numbered 47. The lock cutter bit once, twice, and gave. The door shuddered upward, exhaling a smell like moldy paper and old secrets. Inside, shadows layered thick as regret. A broken chair, boxes collapsing into themselves, a steamer trunk sagging in the corner. "Looks like garbage," Lily said. "Maybe," Mara murmured, stepping inside anyway. The bulb overhead flickered once, found nothing worth its effort, and went out. Dust drifted in their flashlight beam like lazy snow. Mara's breath ghosted white as she reached for the trunk's brass latch. It opened with a sigh that belonged to another century. Inside lay a folded American flag, a cracked leather notebook, a metal tin of photographs, and a black case wrapped in canvas. Lily's eyes widened. "Is it treasure?" "Maybe history," Mara said, voice careful with reverence. She flipped the notebook open. March 4th, 1952. Prototype complete. If approved, the St. Louis line will change everything. Beneath it, a precise sketch of a train. Sleek, almost alive, surrounded by handwritten equations. Every page ended with the same neat initials. H. Denton. Whoever he was, he wrote like he believed. At the bottom of the trunk lay a narrow silver cylinder, no longer than her forearm, capped with a glass lens and fragile wiring, etched along the side. Magnetic propulsion test, 1952. Mara turned it gently in her hands. "What is it?" Lily asked. "An invention," Mara said, though her pulse whispered a miracle. The air smelled faintly metallic, like the moment before lightning. She repacked everything carefully, sliding the notebook into her coat. Lily claimed the moth-eaten blanket as a cape. "We can sell it?" she asked. "Maybe," Mara said, "after we understand what we have." That night, they parked behind an abandoned feed store whose faded sign still promised chicken feed 99C. The truck bed was their bedroom, the cab, their closet. Mara heated soup over a camping stove while Lily drew stars on the fogged window. Later, when Lily slept, Mara read by flashlight. Denton's entries told of a post-war engineer working for Midwestern Rail, dreaming of engines that moved by magnet rather than fuel. Near the end, his script trembled. They ordered the project buried, said it was unsafe. One day, someone will open this trunk, and no, we weren't crazy. Morning came thin and silver. They drove to the library, the only brick building in town that kept its dignity. The librarian, white hair in a braid, patience older than law, led Mara to the basement archives. "Nobody's looked at these since the 60s, she said. Cardboard boxes waited in rows like obedient ghosts. After an hour of dust and disappointment, Mara found a clipping. Local engineer missing after factory fire, 1952. Harold Denton, 38, presumed dead. No family listed. A photo showed him smiling beside a train that looked almost familiar. "Maybe it's him," she whispered. Lily appeared with 2 borrowed books and a scolding look. "You forget lunch again." They ate apples on the library steps. "Who was Harold?" Lily asked. "Someone who built things that scared people," Mara said. "The best kind of someone." The wind chased leaves across the parking lot. For the first time in months, Mara felt something under her ribs that wasn't dread. She drove aimlessly afterward, following the thin black thread of road until the horizon folded into farmland. Somewhere out here, she thought, Denton had believed the future could be built by hand. At dusk, they pulled into a county park, the kind with broken swings and free sunsets. Mara spread the blanket on the truck bed, read the notebook again while Lily colored. The last page bore a different handwriting, smaller, cleaner, initialed MH. It read, "Midnight test rescheduled. Harold says it will work this time." Mara frowned. Her grandmother's name had been Margaret Holt. Her mother had never spoken of her except to say she worked at the yard. Coincidence? Maybe. But the thought sat heavy, like a door that didn't quite latch. She folded the note away carefully. The next day, a mailman in a patched jacket tapped on their truck window at the gas station. "You, the lady, bought that locker?" he asked. "I am," Mara said. He nodded. "Belonged to Denton's grandson. Folks said the old man built something the government stole. My daddy saw it once. Train moved without touching the tracks. Swore it off. Drink after that." He tipped his hat. "Depot's still standing west of town. If you're curious, the boards are loose." When he left, Mara realized curiosity felt like hunger, but cleaner, almost holy. The depot crouched behind a tangle of weeds and silence. Its broken windows squinted against the light. Inside smelled of oil and history. A section of rusted rail cut through the floor, leading to a half-covered shape beneath a tarp. Mara pulled the cover back. A locomotive, half-size, experimental, waited beneath, paint blistered, proud even in ruin. "NPR 1, the stencil read. Lily gasped. "It's beautiful." Mara climbed into the cab. Dust muted everything except one small socket in the control panel, exactly the size of the silver cylinder. "Mom," Lily whispered. "It fits." Her hands shook as she slotted it in. A click, then silence, then a faint vibration underfoot, as if the air remembered motion. Amber lights trembled along the dashboard, humming low. The rail beneath them shivered. "It's alive," Lily whispered. Awe and fear braided in her voice. Mara switched it off quickly. The hum faded, but something invisible lingered, an aftertaste of possibility. "We shouldn't stay," she said. "Why not?" "Because things this quiet get noticed." They left with the cylinder wrapped in Lily's blanket. The notebook zipped inside Mara's coat like a heartbeat. They called from a payphone outside the grocery store. "County Historical Society." A woman answered. "This is Dr. Evelyn Nolan." Mara hesitated, then said, "If I told you I found the missing NPR 1 engine, would you hang up?" "No," Nolan said slowly. "I'd ask where you're standing." They arranged to meet the next day. That night, wind crawled under the truck doors, but sleep found them anyway. In her dream, Mara saw rails stretching through the dark, humming like veins. Somewhere ahead, a light blinked patiently, waiting for permission to move. Dr. Nolan met them in a museum office that smelled of paper and reverence. She handled the cylinder like glass music. "Authentic," she murmured. "Denton's design used magnetic repulsion, 30 years ahead of its time. Politics buried it. Safety boards, oil interests, Cold War paranoia, typical American tragedy. She smiled softly. You found proof. Proof of what? That we were capable of better, Nolan said. That innovation died young. She photographed the cylinder, took copies of the notebook, and thanked Mara as though she'd restored a missing page of scripture. Recognition didn't pay for gas, but it changed something heavier. Word spread fast in small towns. The woman with the magnet train became a phrase traded over coffee. Ellis, the mailman, left a note under their wiper. My friend restores antiques. He'll pay fair. Also, proud of you. Pride felt foreign, but good. For the first time in months, people looked at Mara without suspicion. Lily taped one of her drawings of the engine to the truck window like a flag. Now they'll know we belong, she said. We already did, Mara answered, and almost believed it. They moved into a rented cabin near the depot. Bare walls, one heater. Miracle. Enough. Mara scrubbed floors for the museum while Nolan drafted her as part-time assistant. She labeled boxes, sorted blueprints, learned to read faded ink like a language. One afternoon, Nolan called her over. Look at this, she said, sliding a photocopy across the desk. It was a patent filing. 2 names at the bottom, Harold Denton and Margaret Holt. Mara froze. Your grandmother? Nolan asked. Mara nodded slowly. She worked here. She must have. Then history owes her too, Nolan said. That night, Mara told Lily by the light of a single bulb. She built it. With him, she said. Grandma Maggie. Lily grinned. So we're engineers. Maybe caretakers, Mara said. Same thing if you do it right. They hung the patent copy on the wall. For once, their family history felt like more than a cautionary tale. Mara wrote a note and slid it into the trunk beside the flag. For whoever finds this next, truth keeps better in shared air. When she closed the lid, the house seemed to settle around them like gratitude. Spring came late, but it came. The depot became a landmark. School groups visited the museum's new Denton wing. Inside a glass case, the cylinder sat under perfect light, labeled, the invention that could have changed history. Every time Mara passed it, she whispered thanks. To the man who built it, to the woman who kept it alive, to the accident of storage fees unpaid. Sometimes gratitude is just a long exhale that doesn't end. Lily, meanwhile, drew blueprints of her own, insisting hers would run on sunlight. Motion belongs to dreamers, she said. One night, the phone rang at the cabin. Nolan's voice trembled with excitement. You need to hear this. The governor's declaring March 4th Innovation Remembrance Day. Denton and Holt, both names, on record. Your grandmother's contribution will finally be taught. Mara sat down, dizzy with relief. She gets her name back, she whispered. So do you, Nolan said. History's a circle. Outside, rain threaded down the window, gentle and forgiving. For once, Mara didn't feel like running. She felt found, not rescued, not redeemed, just placed back where she'd always belonged. At the museum's ceremony, she stood behind a microphone that hummed like a living wire. She hadn't planned a speech, only truth. We think lost means gone, she said, but sometimes it just means waiting for the right hands. Applause came soft, then steady. When it was over, an old man approached her. I worked with your grandmother, he said. She kept the engines running after Denton died. Said someone had to. He squeezed her shoulder. She'd be proud. Mara nodded, tears warming her face. Pride, she realized, was just grief that had learned manners. That evening, Back at the cabin, she opened the trunk one last time. The flag lay folded neatly, the notebook beside it, the space where the cylinder had been glowing faintly in memory. She added a new note. Today, we told the truth. It liked the sound of itself. Then she closed the lid. Outside, the wind stirred the pines and carried the faintest hum. Distant, metallic, alive. Lily looked up from her drawings. Do you hear it? Yes, Mara said. It's still moving. They stood together, listening as the night learned the rhythm of belief. Spring deepened into summer, and the world began pretending it had always been kind. The museum expanded its hours. Tourists arrived in rented cars, smiling as if discovery were contagious. Mara kept, working quietly, cataloging relics that no longer frightened her. Each evening, she walked Lily home through fields that glowed gold in the sinking light. Sometimes, the hum of distant trains echoed through the hills, a sound halfway between progress and prayer. It's like they're thanking Grandma, Lily said once. Maybe, Mara whispered. Or maybe they're reminding us the future's still waiting to be built. They bought second-hand furniture. A kitchen table missing one leg, 2 mismatched chairs, a radio that caught only one clear station. The cottage became something that sounded like laughter again. On the first morning of July, Mara pinned her grandmother's brass railroad badge above the sink. It looks right there, Lily said, like it always knew this was home. Mara smiled. Maybe it did. She brewed coffee, real coffee, not instant, the smell folding through the room like belonging. Outside, thunderclouds gathered without malice. Even storms, she thought, could be polite if you listened carefully. Dr. Nolan called that afternoon. We've received a grant, she said, enough to restore NPR-1 fully. We want you on the team. The words stunned Mara into silence. I'm not an engineer. You're a caretaker of stories, Nolan replied. That's rarer. Mara looked at her hands, calloused, capable, not ashamed anymore. Then I'll help, she said, if you'll have me. Good, Nolan answered. History trusts you. The line clicked off. Mara stared out the window at Lily chasing a paper kite through wet grass, the child laughing against the storm. For the first time, the future didn't look like a threat. Work began at the depot, under floodlights and cautious optimism. Mechanics, historians, volunteers, people whose names she didn't yet know, gathered around the half-dismantled engine, its paint peeled in thin, forgiving curls. She's been waiting 70 years, one man said. Let's not make her wait another day. Mara nodded. Every bolt she polished felt like penance paid forward. Some nights, she stayed long after the others left, listening to the metal settle into memory. She'd whisper, "You're safe now," not sure whether she meant the machine, her grandmother, or herself. One evening, Lily brought a sleeping bag and declared the depot their second home. "We're camping with history," she said. They toasted marshmallows over a toolbox fire and told stories about Harold and Margaret, inventing the parts time had stolen. What if they finished the engine in secret? Lily asked. Maybe it worked and they hid it. Maybe, Mara said. Sometimes hiding is the only way to save something. Outside, crickets tuned the night into soft applause. The engine's metal skin reflected the firelight, and for a heartbeat, it looked alive again. The town's newspaper ran a front-page story. Local woman leads historic restoration. Beneath it, a photo of Mara, holding the notebook, eyes half lit, expression cautious but proud. Strangers nodded to her in the grocery aisle. At the diner, someone paid for their breakfast. But attention, she learned, could taste like a blessing and a warning at once. One morning, a black SUV idled across from the depot too long. A man in a pressed coat scribbled notes pretending to check his phone. "Mom," Lily said, "why's that car watching?" "Because stories make people curious," Mara said. "And curiosity wears suits." Later that week, Dr. Nolan received an email from a private collector offering to buy the engine for 7 figures. "They didn't even name themselves," she told Mara. "That's the first lie." "What will you do?" "Tell them history's not for sale." Mara nodded, but unease crept in anyway, like fog finding cracks in a window. That night, she locked the workshop twice and drove Lily home in silence. At the cottage, the shadows felt thicker than usual. She kept the lights on until dawn, not out of fear, but respect for vigilance learned too late. The next morning brought small peace, pancakes, laughter, a letter from the school offering Lily a scholarship for a summer science camp. "They said it's for students who see the world differently," Lily said, beaming. "Guess that's us." "That's definitely us," Mara smiled. They packed a borrowed duffel and drove her to the camp 2 towns over. When Lily ran to join the others, her hair caught the sunlight, and Mara's heart felt both proud and hollow. She stayed until the bus pulled away, waving like a promise she intended to keep. The cottage was too quiet without Lily's chatter. Mara filled the hours at the depot, fixing, cleaning, restoring. The hum of tools replaced the hum of her child's questions. Late one night, she heard tires crunch outside. A silhouette paused by the gate. Tall, deliberate, unfamiliar. She turned off her lamp. The man leaned on the fence, watching the depot for a long minute, then left. She breathed only when his headlights disappeared. Fear didn't return as panic this time. It returned as purpose. She called Nolan. "We need security, not just locks, people." Within days, volunteers organized night shifts, retired engineers, teenagers, even Ellis, the mailman with a flashlight and thermos. "You brought the story here," he said. "Now we guard it." Gratitude burned behind Mara's ribs. Community was a strange thing, invisible until needed, unstoppable once awake. The engine stood in the center of it all, half restored, half dream. When she placed her hand against its metal side, warmth pulsed faintly through the steel. "It remembers," Ellis said softly. "Maybe it knows it's almost home." She smiled. "So do I." Summer waned. On the final day of restoration, the team reattached the polished cylinder. The air thickened, electric. "Ready?" Nolan asked. Mara nodded. The switch flipped. A low hum grew, steady and strong. The rail under MPR-1 vibrated, once, then held. The engine glowed faintly blue, hovering an inch above steel. Gasps filled the room. "It's levitating," someone whispered. Mara felt tears sting. "It worked," she said. "After 70 years, it finally works." The hum deepened, like a voice saying, "Remember me." Nolan reached for her arm. "Your grandmother just changed history again." They powered it down before awe turned dangerous. Silence collapsed like relief. Outside, thunder rolled approval across the sky. Nolan laughed through tears. "We'll record this tomorrow. I need the press here." Mara wiped her hands on her jeans. "History waited long enough," she said. "It can wait one more night." She drove home with the window down, letting the wind cool her disbelief. At a red light, she caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. Tired, older, but alive in a way that had nothing to do with luck. When she reached the cottage, a note waited under the door. No return address, just typed words. Things that float can also fall. Don't play with what you don't understand. The paper smelled faintly of gasoline. Mara folded it calmly, placed it in the drawer beside the railroad badge, and sat very still. Fear tried to rise, but she kept it company instead of feeding it. "Not today," she whispered. "Not this time." Outside, a train whistle moaned far away, lonely, defiant, alive. She smiled faintly. Threats were just echoes when the truth was already louder. The next morning, uniformed officers arrived to stand watch as news crews filled the depot. Nolan handled questions. Mara stayed near the engine, a quiet guardian. A reporter thrust a microphone toward her. "How does it feel to be part of rewriting American history?" "Heavy," she said simply, "but right." Flashbulbs painted the room in bursts of temporary light. When it was over, the crowd thinned, leaving only the hum of cooling metal. She touched the cylinder once more, whispering, "You did it, Grandma." For the first time, she swore. The engine answered. That night, Lily returned from camp sunburned and glowing. "We built model bridges," she said proudly. "Mine didn't collapse." Mara hugged her tight. "That's our family tradition, building things that stay up." They drove to the depot. After dark, Lily pressed her face to the glass, staring at the hovering engine. "It's like magic," she breathed. "No," Mara said softly. "It's proof that hope leaves blueprints." They stood there long after midnight, the machine humming faintly like a living heart, the stars outside echoing the same quiet persistence. In the weeks that followed, life simplified. The museum hired Mara permanently. Lily started a new school where she wasn't the shelter kid anymore. The engine's restoration drew tourists. The town's diner reopened under new owners. Even the mayor said, half joking, "History pays better than politics." Mara smiled, but didn't chase the joke. She still kept the trunk under her bed, filled now with her own notes, records of how belief can fix more than machines. Every evening she added one sentence, "We're still moving." Some stories, she'd learned, need to be told slowly to last. Then autumn arrived, sharp and forgiving. Leaves turned copper. Fields went quiet. One morning, Mara drove to the overlook above the river, where the old rail bridge curved like a question mark. She carried the folded flag from the trunk and let the wind hold it open for a while. "You can rest now," she said aloud. A hawk circled overhead, small against the pale sky. She smiled. "You see, Grandma, we kept it safe." When she let go, the fabric caught on the breeze and lifted, not falling, just moving on. That evening, she found a letter taped to the museum door, handwritten, trembling. "I was a technician under Denton. Your grandmother saved my life the night of the fire. I've kept her notebook all these years, afraid to show anyone. It's yours if you want it. No signature, only an address 3 towns over." Mara drove there the next day, heart drumming. The house was nearly empty, a frail man waiting on the porch. "You look like her," he said softly. Inside, he handed her a weathered ledger. "She told me, truth doesn't rot. It just waits for air." Mara opened it. Inside, detailed instructions, letters, even a page addressed to my family, whoever finds this. If the world ever stops believing in what's possible, start the engine again. Tears blurred the ink. She closed the book gently. You already did, she whispered. The man smiled faintly. Then maybe the world's safer now. She thanked him and left with the ledger pressed to her chest. Outside, the wind smelled like rain and iron. Somewhere behind her, the old depot bell rang once, clear, resonant, like gratitude that had finally found its voice. That night, back home, she sat with Lily by the window. "What happens now?" Lily asked. "Now we live," Mara said. "We fix what breaks. We remember." The child leaned against her shoulder. "Do you think Grandma knows?" Mara looked toward the horizon where the train lights glimmered, endless and patient. "I think she's riding the rails somewhere, smiling." Silence settled, soft and certain. The hum of the restored engine drifted faintly through the night air. Mara closed her eyes, hearing it as heartbeat, as home. "We're in the middle of somewhere," she whispered. And this time, it was true.